National health insurance could sound the death knell for the Progressive Liberal Party, according to a former PLP MP. This is Tall Pines MP Leslie Miller says NHI will lead the PLP to victory. The president of the Bahamas Bar Association on the record murder count, plus some of the nation's top students honored by urban renewal. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and MB12 starts right now. Topping news tonight. If it's not properly executed, national health insurance will be the death knell for the Progressive Liberal Party at the next general election, according to a former PLP MP, Philip Galanis. Charging that Bahamians are totally uninformed when it comes to NHI, Galanis said the scheme could wind up being the straw that broke the camel's back. And he called on the Christie administration to press pause on the plan and address the many unanswered questions.
I think this could certainly be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I think that this is going to be so pervasive in terms of its impact and effect on people's lives and on businesses that if it's not properly launched, if it's not properly explained, if it's not properly managed, properly overseen and regulated, it could indeed sound the death knell for the PLP in the next election.
The Christie administration intends to introduce NHI on January 1st. The initial phase will focus primarily on client registration. However, there have been calls from the F&M and the Chamber of Commerce for the scheme to be delayed, citing a general lack of information and dialogue on the issue. Galanis today echoed those calls, stating there's still too many unanswered questions, and he's encouraging the government to press pause.
I believe that the Bahamians are totally uninformed about NHI. There has not been sufficient discussion in the public square about where we're going, what it will entail, what it will cost, how it will impact individuals' lives, how it will impact businesses. There are too many unanswered questions for us to believe that we are ready for NHI to be introduced. And so I would encourage the government to press the pause button and help us to understand what we are getting ourselves into.
Galanis took note that the Christie administration has yet to reveal how much NHI is going to cost or how it's going to be funded. Prime Minister Perry Christie has said government is considering a tax to help fund the scheme, which, according to a report by Sanides International, could cost between $362 and $633 million annually. Galanis noted government already appropriated more than $200 million to the public health sector in its 2015-2016 budget.
If we're going to be allocating an additional $200 million minimum or $300 million minimum or $600 million maximum, you're talking about pushing the cost of healthcare in this country well in excess of nearly to $1 billion. The question is that money has to come from someplace, and where is it going to come from? We do not know. We simply have not been advised. We have not been informed. We don't know what form it's going to take, and there have been a number of mixed messages.
One cabinet minister admitted he is lost on specific plans for national health insurance. Minister of State for Legal Affairs Damian Gomez also said that government's public relations campaign is horrible and hopeless, marking another embarrassing moment for the Christie administration. He also predicted that on its current track of ignoring the views of the public, the PLP would not stand a good chance of winning the next general election. The Nassau Guardian's National Review reporting today that when asked about the government's public relations on NHI, Gomez said it's non-existent. It really is horrible. The cabinet minister also admitted that he does not know how much NHI will cost, and he does not know specifically what NHI will entail. And when asked whether he thinks the PLP has a good shot at winning the next general election, he said not on its current PR track, but it has a good chance if we're able to arrest where we are with PR and do what we need to do with respect to responding to public views. He said you can't ignore the public and expect to win. Well, Tall Pines MP Leslie Miller today asserted that he disagrees with the notion that the confusion surrounding NHI could cost the Progressive Liberal Party the next general election. Miller said he strongly believes that once it's implemented, NHI could win the hearts and minds of Bahamians and lead the PLP to a victory. Simone Davis reports.
The Tall Pines MP said he believes that if the government does not implement NHI, that could cause the government to lose the next general election. He noted that Bahamians are in dire need of universal health care and questioned how could the government lose with NHI if it's doing it for the Bahamian people.
I think if we don't implement NHI in fully between now and then, it will probably topple the government. I think Bahamians are really in desperate need of having proper health care. And I see no reason why the government, who has promised that since 2002, when we took over the reins of government then, that we were supposed to implement it between 2002 and 2007. We didn't do it because we kept listening to the insurance group. And I hope that this time we do the right thing on behalf of the people. I'm sure that they would appreciate it. And I think they would vote for the government that implements that fully to enable them to have a few more years left on their life when sickness comes.
However, Miller stated that he agrees with former PLP MP Philip Galanis, who stated that the government does a poor job of keeping the public informed. Miller called for a stronger public relations team to be put in place to ensure that Bahamians are well informed of the government's plans.
And I believe there's this lack of public relations. And the Honorable Minister Damien Gomez spoke on that in the Guardian this morning. The government got to do a better job of saying the things that we are doing that is positive, that enhance the life of living people, instead of sitting back and allowing the press to berate them every single day. I don't know who they have doing the PR for them, but to me it's non-existent and everybody's on the same page. The Prime Minister needs to get his group together, get his people together, and go and sell what it is the government is doing. So it's really, it's a
He also suggested that Chief Medical Officer Dr. Glenn Bannaby should be the person in charge of public relations concerning NHI. Miller also hit out at BIA Chairman Emmanuel Komolafe once again, who recently indicated that the association would not be silenced when it comes to the issue surrounding NHI. Komolafe also previously stated that the government has not been consulting enough with the BIA as needed. According to the Tall Pines MP, the government has consulted with the Insurance Association on many occasions, and he believes they are only disgruntled because the plan has not been going the way they wanted to.
I was there on several occasions. I asked the PM, I said, who that is? Said, it's a group again. I asked Mr. Gomez, Dr. Gomez, they were there meeting with them. But every time they meet with them, they want to have their way. They're telling the government, here's the plan that we want you to implement. What gives you that authority? You were not there on the 7th of May when those polls closed and we won the government. You don't have the authority to tell me as a government what to do. And that's why I tell the brother, go home and go tell your people implement it in Nigeria. I got nothing against the man, but I don't appreciate any foreigner trying to dictate what we do on behalf of the people that send us to Parliament to do a job on their behalf. But they're trying to berate the government by saying the government isn't listening to them. I was not elected by your group. I was elected by the people of the Bahamas. Get it through your damn head.
Our news team reached out to the BIA members, but they were unavailable for further comment up to press time. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
In other news, the Bahamas recorded an average of one murder every 2.5 days as of December 6. And with the country's murder count now standing at 138 so far for the year, President of the Bahamas Bar Association, Ellsworth Johnson, is weighing in. Kyle Joaquin reports.
No courts in the Bahamas should not be able to try a case because the air condition is breaking down every summer and in the winter.
And it's minute issues like that and, of course, the much larger ones preventing the courts to function as effectively as they should, according to Bahamas Bar Association President Ellsworth Johnson. The Attorney General has been touting the success of swift justice, highlighting the number of convictions and trials being brought forward in a reasonable time. But Johnson sees it as something simply created with political motives.
I do not subscribe to swift justice. Our Constitution speaks to a trial within a reasonable time before an impartial, fearless, and independent judiciary. Swift justice is a concept that was politically contrived. You do not tie these constitutional concepts to political aspirations, right? And so when you're dealing with the court, it's to be independent, because no matter who wins, you want a fearless court.
Johnson said the problem isn't just with the courts, but starts from the time of arrest.
We need to break these down to the common denominator. People say that people would get bail, but you know, ask them why. Ask them how the statements were taken. Ask them whether or not the statements were voluntary. Ask them about it. Sometimes judges set about 3 matters and none come off. Ask them about really protecting witnesses. The level of nepotism is too high.
Last month, shortly after the murder record was shattered, Police Commissioner Ellison Greenslade said there needs to be changes in legislation to prevent criminals from being granted bail so easily. Johnson said another fact compounding the issue is that there is a serious lack of resources in both the Attorney General's office and Royal Bahamas Police Force.
Once people do their jobs, in terms of the Attorney General office, they need proper staffing. There's resources. I wouldn't go into the particulars, but I will say this nationally. There are resources that they need to provide them with that. There are resources that the commissioner needs in terms of proper investigations. And sometimes if you ask them, if you condescend to the particular and says, why is it that this man got off? You'd be surprised.
Last week, a judge granted an alleged gang member $10,000 bail after acknowledging a flaw in the prosecution's case. But that wasn't the first time he was granted bail. The same man was granted bail just last year for murder, attempted murder, and possession of an unlicensed firearm with the intent to endanger life. According to the Nassau Guardian, the Bahamas recorded on average 1 murder every 2.5 days up to December 6th, and the number has steadily climbed in the last 2 years. So far this year, there have been 138 murders. At this point last year, there were 114. And on this date in 2013, there were 103. Now, it is still unclear exactly what government's new crime-fighting strategy will entail. Prime Minister Perry Christie has spoken very little on it other than to say that it would impose on people's freedom of movement. And today, we actually reached out to National Security Minister Dr. Gov'T to get a little more insight. However, he refused to comment. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.